This here is the game board. It's 81 spaces. The spaces are arranged randomly at the start of the game. The board represents like a community or some kind of city. And as you can see, there's all kinds of buildings, bars, schools, parks, all kinds of stuff. Just like chess represents a war between two nations, this game represents like a battle between the forces of community who want to keep the city together and the forces of light who want to fuck everything up. The game is turn-based. One player gets a turn, then the other gets a turn, and then that's the end of the round. But unlike chess, each side starts with only a couple pieces and more are gradually added to the board as the game goes on. So at the beginning of the game, each side goes back and forth selecting founder pieces. Community has the first pick. Founders are special pieces. If one side loses both of their founders, the game ends. And you can tell founders apart because they're a slightly brighter version of the team's color. Community is blue, white is red. So this menu lets you select pieces at the beginning of the game, and it'll also be important later on. Let's look at some of the pieces here. Let's take Alakazam, for example. So this symbol shows how the piece moves. Left-click on one of your pieces to move it. If you aren't familiar with chess movement, that's fine, because the game shows you all your possible moves in green. Possible captures are in pink. So Alakazam moves like a bishop, which is diagonally. These are the piece tags here. Alakazam is a Muslim, a woman, and a terrorist, and tags are important for certain conditions in the game. Now here are the pieces' needs and wants. These are the main crux of the game because they determine the team the pieces are on. In other words, they decide what player controls them. If the piece has their need but not their want, they're neutral. It can be moved by both players, and you can right-click on a piece to move neutrals. If they have their need and their want, they belong to community's player. If they don't have their need, even if they have their want, they belong to blight player. So if the piece is a founder, you can ignore needs and wants. Your founder pieces are always on your team no matter what, and they don't change sides. Also, the hobos in the center of the board are always neutral. Desires are things that attract the piece to the community. So Alakazam's piece desires mosques. The more mosques there are in the community, the higher she'll move on the list of pieces to the right. This is called the housing manifest. And when she moves to the top of the list, she'll be the next person moving into your community at the end of the round, which again is both players taking a turn. Pieces also have special abilities that change the game board or their movement. Each piece has a unique special ability. On your turn, you'll get one move and one special ability use. And you don't have to use the special ability of the piece you moved. It can be any piece that you control. At the end of each round, one player will be asked to house a piece that's moving into your community. Housing is important for some pieces' needs and wants. So some people want to live in single-family homes, and some people don't want to live next to people with certain other tags, for example. Where a piece is housed can mean the difference between them being on your team or them going to your opponent, so you want to be really careful when you house pieces. If a piece's home becomes abandoned through some effect, their residence is moved to a random homeless shelter, which are these right here. If there are no homeless shelters active, they're totally homeless. Ouch. So each week, the side who has more pieces with the worker tag gets the referendum, which lets them establish a rule that affects the game. So 3 of the rules, the Transgender Bathrooms Act, the Open Carry Act, and the Faletal Right to Life Act, are tied directly to character needs and wants, those being the needs of Mousetrap, Shogun, and Lifesaver, respectively. The remaining ones either change the movement of pieces with the specified tag, like the Survivor Recognition Act makes all Survivor tag pieces move like rooks, or they prevent them from being captured, so the Men's Rights and Women's Rights Acts prevent men and women from being captured. If you have the referendum, you can also repeal established acts or abstain and do nothing. So there's 4 game end states, or in-game states, whichever. 2 of them will be familiar to chess players and basically involve the capture of other players' pieces. So a subjugation end occurs when one side captures all the other players' founder pieces. Assassinated or neutralized, those are the texts for a subjugation end. A San Francisco end occurs when there's no housing left. The assimilation end occurs when all the pieces are on the same team, and this can occur with the use of specials like Rain Dance or Alakazam. Their special abilities can do this. So Learn Helplessness, Radical Empathy, or Carl Sagan, those are all assimilation ends. The melting pot end occurs when the housing manifest is exhausted, so when no one else can move into your community. That's a melting pot end. The reclamation end occurs when the amount of abandoned spaces plus the amount of open land spaces reaches or exceeds 35. So Detroit Reclaimed and Urban Renewal, those are reclamation ends. And that's it.